Good morning and welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast, our live Q&A ahead of the Ravens game. If you're hearing my voice, that means Steven is not here. He's okay. I'm pretty sure he's just trying to avoid watching Utah football. So he's gone. He's golfing. He's doing whatever. The poor guy has gone through it this season. Thank goodness the Chargers are good and coming off of a win against the Bengals. Alex is joining me today. Alex is a noted Cincinnati hater, so I'm sure he relished in the win as twice as much as everybody else. Yeah. Alex, how you doing, man?
Ohio, Pittsburgh, really anywhere on the East Coast that is not Philadelphia can get that. So it was a nice victory. It was nice that they held on for the victory, given how long we all stayed up for that game. So it was nice for them to not charge her at the end, like I said.
Yes. Where do you stand on the calling it a blown lead versus not a blown lead debate? Shout out Daniel Popper and everything he's been through this week.
My opinion on that debate is that Chargers fans would not survive one day with East Coast media in Philly or New York.
No.
On that.
Yeah, everyone's like, "Oh, he's an East Coast reporter." Yes, Daniel Popper was formerly from the East Coast, an East Coast reporter. But yes, it'd be fascinating if we had 10 of those in the building.
Popper used to work for the Jets. That's media training 101. You work for one of the Jets, Giants, or Eagles beat.
Oh yeah, definitely. Then I think he was Jaguars before us. Chris Rim was Falcons and Ravens before the Chargers. So yeah, those guys.
Jaguars is a little less stressed, but I think if you're in any of the Patriots, Giants, Eagles, Jets, Steelers, I think those are the real blue blood. Those are the real blue bloods of raising your heart rate as a reporter on the East Coast.
Yeah, no, most definitely. So we got this big game coming up. Speaking of Baltimore and all that, big game coming up on Monday Night Football. The Chargers are so good they've been flexed to Thursday Night Football. We'll talk about that game well down the line, but that's coming up too. Thanks a lot to I'm sure Alex, you're pretty stoked to watch every 9 o'clock Pacific ending game possible.
No, the Thursday night flex fucked me in particular because that's the day before my final exam. I'm not because I messaged the chat earlier this week because I was like, oh, maybe I could go to California for the Broncos game because that's on the 22nd on Sunday.
That's right.
And then they flexed it to the 19th and I'm flying home on the 20th. So I'm like, oh, well, that's taken care of. But I don't know. I feel bad for people that had tickets to that game or were trying to go to it because the league has also never done Thursday night flex before. So I think it would be kind of right to have some kind of financial refund or credit. I don't think they're going to do that because business, but I wish there was some way that could happen, whether that's Ticketmaster or the Chargers or the NFL. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a really good point there. For the players, it's probably not great. Thank goodness it's the Chargers home game. It's not like they have to go to Denver.
If we had to go to Denver on a short week and we got Thursday night flex, I'd be so pissed.
Yeah, definitely. So glad it's at least a home game. I think I'll be there. I mean, I have the tickets for it. Like you said, everybody has tickets for this game. The question is, can we make it now on a Thursday? So we'll see. Regarding this upcoming game, and just sticking with the topic of the title of the video to get people to, we're still waiting for people to come in. It's only been 4.5 minutes. This game against the Ravens, Lamar Jackson right now is currently the second best odds to win MVP. Josh Allen jumped him, I think, over that because of that win against the Chiefs, understandably so. And obviously he's having a good season too. Where are you at with, because people are starting to build this buzz around Herbert, not just being the dark horse MVP candidate like he was a few weeks ago, but now moving up. He's currently, depends on where you look, but about top 8 in the odds for MVP. Lamar's second. Where do you think both those guys might move? Or maybe just where would Herbert move with a 1, good performance, and then 2, a win over the Ravens on Monday?
I think the good thing for Herbert, if you're trying to put him in MVP talks down the stretch of the season, is that he's going to have 3 primetime games, Ravens, Chiefs, and then the Broncos now on Thursday night. So that is, I think, the good thing for him. Because I believe right now, if you go 1 through 7, it's Josh Allen, Lamar, Goff is a step below them, I think at plus 600, and then it's Mahomes, Hurts. Hurts is funny. When are we going to give credit to a running back? Come on, like if this was the year to do it, it should be Barkley. Like I don't, and I love Hurts, but if we're going to pick a rep from the Eagles, it should be Barkley. But then it's Kyler, and then it's Herbert. I think he could move up to maybe right in that Mahomes Hurts tier. I think if he could get to, I think he could get to there with a big prime win.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. I think the Bills are going to win that division at this point. It seems like a good old dumpster fire over there. So I think they've got that generally pretty locked down at this point. So that'll help Josh Allen's case. The Chargers would have to win their own division, I think, for Herbert to officially really enter like that finalist race.
I think at the very least he would have to beat Mahomes in Kansas City. I think like if you're trying to create optimist case, they beat the Ravens and then beat the Chiefs in primetime. Like that, And like this is my thing with the MVP award, because I think it has just turned into like QB that wins the most games and has like the best stats. Like Brock Purdy was going to win it last year if he won that game against the Ravens. Like we were going to give it to him as a society, and we didn't, fortunately. But I don't know, like if I thought about this, like because the Ravens and Bills have some hard games like coming down the pike, I think. If the Lions finish at 16-1, might just give it to Goff, and I don't think Goff should win it. But like based on how they've given the award out before, like it really wouldn't surprise me. So I think he has a chance. I think it's still like Herbert. I think still has a chance. It's an outside one, but I think given the primetime games, given how he has been playing, 2 first half perfect passer ratings. Like if he can keep that kind of momentum up, particularly with the supporting cast he has, and McConkey keeps playing well. Like, I know. I think there's no reason he can't be like top 4 or 5. I think by the end of it, certainly.
Yeah, as Kevin points out, MVP is dumb. I think we just really want Justin Herbert to win MVP at some point during his career. Whether that happens, we'll see. Unfortunately, the AFC keeps stacking some pretty good quarterbacks in their conference. Although it sounds like Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to be out here in the Jets anymore, so maybe he'll be a Raider and resurrect his own career.
Oh no, I think he's gonna join the Legion of Washed Titans. That's like my that's my hope.
Oh goodness, yeah, that's where he wants to go, man. Hey, go for it. Good luck to the Jets. Good luck to Arjun. Haven't talked to him much lately. Curious how things are going over there. But so I think that Herbert will definitely move up if they win. What's your temperature on this game and really like the Chargers overall? Because it's really tricky to be like all the way in optimistic, but also be realistic. Like everyone's, the Ravens, not everyone, but many Chargers fans in the comments, like the Ravens are bad. Look, they lost to the Raiders. They lost to the Browns that beat the Steelers just like a couple days ago, obviously. Different team. Like, no, they had Jameis that game. Anyway, the Ravens are clearly beatable. They have lost games. They're not, an undefeated team by any means, or even a one-loss team. I just don't know where I'm at with this game, other than I'm all in emotionally on the Chargers winning and like screw it to the numbers and the data and whatever. Where are you at with this matchup?
I think this one is a little rough for them on paper. I think a lot about the Denzel Perriman absence potentially looming with Derrick Henry, obviously, and Lamar. But I think they can win. I think the thing with Jesse Minter's defense in particular, it gives them a higher floor, I think, in these games to be able to compete, where it's not the 2021, 2022 Chargers where those teams had to score 30, 35 points to just like have a chance at the end, which is kind of where, the Bengals find themselves now, right? So I think from that standpoint, if you put the Chargers in any one game scenario against any of the AFC playoff teams, I could buy that they win, sure. I don't know how many teams they would be favored against. But the defense does give me confidence enough that they'll be able to, at the very least, stay in these games.
Yeah, that makes the huge difference. It, I hope, isn't the boat race that it could have been years prior. Although last year, like weirdly, they did well
The
against
weird thing, that was
Rams.
like the one good
Like
defensive
Dean
game.
Leonard and who's the slot corner? Isang Basie, I think, was like the slot corner at that
Oh
point.
yeah,
I mean, like the fact that they did okay in that game of all games is hilarious. Although they didn't have Derrick Henry at the time, so we'll definitely see how this goes. Are you leaning win or loss here? Do you want to share that? I picked win. Steven picked loss, although he might change his mind based on the injury report.
yeah, I could be convinced based on the injury report too. Like if Denzel's able to go like limited, that could like flip me a little bit. I do think it's going to be close either way.
Yeah.
For now, I'll say loss just because my mind can't process 5-game win streak.
Fair.
So, at some point, the gravy train has to come out to the end as the show's lead pessimist. But yeah, I think this one might. I don't think it'll get away from them. I think it'll be a close one, but I do think this game favors the Ravens. Lamar in a bounce back game. But yeah, I'd like to see Jim Harbaugh get the win for the third time in the Harbaugh Bowl. First time in the third time.
Yeah, no, that'd be fantastic. Regarding the injuries you've mentioned, tricky to cover them with a Monday night game. So they had the like simulated injury report for Thursday, big asterisk. And then Friday, yesterday is the only day that we really had to go off of. We have Dobbins resting with a rest day on Friday. Great, I guess. Like, go for it. The notable ones are obviously, like you mentioned, Denzel Perryman did not practice for the past 2 days. So one of those days is obviously simulated, but that seems to be trending towards him not playing, which would leave the Chargers with Deion Henley, who we feel pretty good about, and then Troy Dye, who I think we feel good about in his role and in his capacity. But as like hello, you're starting as Derrick Henry. Like, that's probably the worst awful option you could have in front of you. So that one's tricky. McConkey, simulated, whatever you want to call it, like speculated, did not practice on Thursday, but was limited at practice on Friday. Cam Hart is the other one we're worried about, obviously, with the concussion / ankle, apparently. Don't know when that happened, but that's unfortunate. He was currently listed as limited on Friday. So I think overall for the Chargers, things are trending generally kind of positive. We'll see with Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack said, hey, like, I'm going to be out there, buddy. You bet your boots I'm going to be out there against the Bengals. And then he wasn't. So we'll see against this Ravens team if he's out there. If he is, I feel better. But I do feel they can pull it off, but it's mostly a coin flip, and I'm just going for the emotional hedge because I can't stand people getting angry at me.
Well, great. I'm here today. So
that's the only reason I asked Alex to join me today. Yeah.
I'll take the brunt of the blame.
He's the shield. Yeah.
Khalil's the one that I think is another kind of like Perriman, could flip me either way, because I do think the edge room in particular, like Tule's made some big plays, but I do think in the macro, like you have those 3 edge rushers in Bosa, Tule, and Bud last game playing so many snaps, and then like by the end there were a couple moments where Burrow leaked out for a run or just like had that extra second to pass. So I think it's about putting together those 4 complete quarters, and I think if they have Khalil at least able to play, let's say 30-40 snaps, that would be a big help. If he's not and the groin is still bothering him, then that's going to be a tough thing for them to manage. I think particularly against Lamar, who will make you pay more than Joe Burrow for missed sacks, certainly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in that second half, Burrow played great football, as you mentioned. It would help to have that closer, and they finally started to break out some of that almost NASCAR package, but it was Tule, Joey, Morgan Fox, and then Bud Dupree, who's not bad by any means. He's come on strong the last couple of weeks for sure, but it's not the same as Khalil Mack by any means. So I'd love to see them get that way, or at least get everybody that they want. Donnie mentions if the Ravens are without Roquan, that'd be huge. So just looking at the Ravens injury report, Rashad Bateman popped up with a knee injury on Friday. He did not have that on Thursday. Again, a simulated thing, I guess, but him to pop up as it did not practice is pretty significant. Travis Jones is trending towards not playing, did not participate the last 2 days. And then Roquan Smith, of course, with the hamstring. That's a big one. Although it sounds like he hasn't been himself, certainly not like the all-pro, elite version that he has been. So no Roquan Smith, no Travis Jones, it seems like. that'd be huge for the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, I think they, after watching some of the Bengals tape, like they need help in the run game in particular. So if those guys miss and the Chargers are able to take advantage of that, great. But yeah, I still kind of need to be able to see it, just because I feel like every time JK or Gus is in the backfield, like before they even step out of it, they're like 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage and going down. And like that's just how it feels watching them right now, which is not really on them. It's about that interior. But it would be nice for a little bounce back game going to the playoffs where, in some of these close games, they're going to be able to need to run the ball. Like I do think, particularly if you have a lead, it would have been nice to have seen that be successful. And Greg Roman kind of talked about, like, yeah, we leaned on Herbert because that was what was working. And then Herbert was a little off in the second half, and they couldn't run the ball. And then, so I do think establishing, not that I'm like established the run guy, but I do think like at some point they need to have like a functional running game for the playoffs.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree, especially if you find yourself up by many touchdowns in the playoffs. Haven't seen that one before. I mean, against the not going to talk about it. Nope, it's a whole different team, guys. The Jaguars are bad. But yes, the 27-6 lead that they had, I figured they would have run the ball more than 4 times, I think. I mean, Gus Edwards once with 11 and a half minutes left in the third quarter was a surprise. And this is coming from someone who like, good question. I don't believe he is.
I was just confirming on that.
I'm going to just like say words out loud until I can get to that injury report. Clearly nothing like significant. Yeah. Oh yeah. He said right. Yeah. I know what you're about to say.
Yeah. Sorry, he was just like, it's fine. He just said, well, we're going to ride. We rode Dobbins till the end of the game because he was better. But I don't know how much to trust Harbaugh on that stuff. And obviously we've seen him miss 4 games already. So I do have some question marks there.
Yeah, definitely. And he had the 10 carries against the Titans, and that was solid. I think that was like an as expected amount, if not maybe more so. But yeah, I didn't expect them to go, never mind in this game. We'll see. I guess we can get into it now. You had pointed out, and I completely missed it, on Prize Picks, as far as I'm aware, there is no Gus Edwards number on Prize Picks at all. I think they've completely abandoned Gus Edwards projections altogether because we need
a Hassan Haskins number on Prize Picks.
I'm shocked there isn't like a more or less 1.5 rushing yards, rushing attempts on there. Jeffrey Steven is playing golf. He decided to do anything but watch Utah football or join me on this morning. And that's totally fine. Utah's playing Iowa State today, and they'll probably get crushed. And Steven will tweet about it. It'll go like this because it has every week. Utah will actually look okay. It'll actually look okay. Utah will be like, or it's like Utah. Steven will like hype up a pass, and he'll be like, "Let's go." Insert player's name here, and then like something. And by like the mid-second quarter, he'll be complaining about the offense 100%. So go find Steven's Twitter. I bet you it'll go exactly like that. It'll be positive. And then he'll just start getting really pessimistic, and then something about the worst thing he's seen in his lifetime. How's Rutgers
has a chance for their first ranked win in 14 years today?
Who are they playing?
Illinois, number 25.
Okay, that counts as a ranked win.
Yeah, so they're up 10-9 right now. But
oh snap! Oh wow, wow! You're joining us during a very, very big game for you. Goodness gracious!
I know, of course.
All right, so we'll make sure we cycle through this and get to our Prize Pick selections of the week. You guys that are asking questions, go ahead and send in your questions. As soon as we're done with the Prize Pick selections, we'll get to your questions. I see the 4 super chats. I appreciate it. We'll get to that in just a sec. So we're going to jump into the Prize Picks selections of the week here. It's a strange one because we're on Saturday. The game's on Monday, so not everything is finalized, but we are pretty close. It's not like like we've done on Thursdays before, where there are like there's nobody up. So Alex has gone through and looked on Prize Picks to find the best stuff for you this week. I'm going to let Alex share what he's found in Prize Picks this week regarding Chargers and Ravens.
I'll start with my Ravens picks. I do have Lamar over 41.5 rushing yards. Kind of just what we were talking about. I do think the Chargers sometimes have struggled to bring quarterbacks down, as we saw with Bo Nix, as we saw with Joe Burrow. So Lamar kind of makes you pay for that more. So I'm going to go over there. To commit to the bit, I'm going to go under Nelson Aguilar touchdowns of 0.5. Under Nelson Aguilar. He has 2 touchdowns this season. So we'll see how that one goes. Justin Herbert, under 0.5 interceptions. I think he keeps the streak without an INT going. What was my other one that I'm trying? Oh, I have McConkey over 4.5, which feels low, especially given that the Ravens have had some problems like in the secondary. So I think he's gonna at least. I would be surprised if he wasn't in at least 5 receptions and like 9 targets, kind of like the ratio he's been at the last couple of games. And what was my last one? I think that I had. Let me see.
You had Dobbins over
12.5 yards longest rush. So I do think he might not be able to run the ball consistently, considering where the Chargers' run game is at. But I think he'll break one big one, like he has in the last couple of games, at least the Cincinnati game. So I think he'll break one over 12.5 yard rush.
Yeah, no, I love all of those. The one that's always, I mean, Herbert's been on fire the last few weeks. 4 out of the 5 last weeks, he's gone the more on his passing yards. He's at 257.5 this week. That feels like a more to me, but I don't know. Maybe the Ravens losing so many run defending guys kind of opens up the Chargers to run it this week. I don't know. I mean, Steven even guessed like maybe they just say F it and see who's more physical this week. And they're just the Harbaugh Bowl is trying to just out physical each other. And Gus Edwards gets his 15 carries and Dobbins gets his 15 carries, something like that. Where are you at with maybe Herbert at about 257.5 passing yards?
I think I saw earlier that his combined passing and rushing was like 287 or something.
279 right now.
Or 279. Okay. Considering the Roquan, I would feel maybe a little bit more comfortable going with the combined, but I think he breaks 250. I mean, he's been pretty hot in the most recent first half. So I think the second half, I don't know with the Greg Roman offense, but I think he'll get 250.
Yeah. I think so too. So whatever you guys think, go to prizepicks.com/guilty. Use the code guilty for our first deposit match up to $100. Have fun. I'm strongly considering most of the mores on all the Chargers selections, which of course means that I'm going to be wrong with at least one of them, but that's totally fine. The McConkey one, 4.5 receptions. I mean, there's even, you can take like the Goblins or the Ghouls or whatever it is, whatever the red-faced one is. I think that's at 7.5 receptions. Maybe a little tricky there, but like if you're feeling spicy, I'd go for it. At some point, I think the Chargers will realize that McConkey's kind of unstoppable at this point, unless you have a true lockdown corner. So I think this could be a spam McConkey day for sure. All right, let's jump into these questions, starting with our super chat questions. This one's just a notification that Andrew has been a member, a YouTube member for 30 months now. I can't even fathom that we've been on YouTube for 2.5 years at this point, or at least we've even had members for 2.5 years. So that's wild. If you ever go look back at our old live streams, I don't even know what they were. It was probably like Zion Johnson or Brandon Staley era, the first year, maybe. So much optimism.
Do you remember the first ever live stream we tried?
Well, I think one ended up Steven being by himself.
Yeah. We tried to do it and we didn't realize that you had to have like some kind of streaming software. We just thought we could all jump on YouTube together. And then we realized if you do it through YouTube, it only allows one person. So it's just Steven answering questions as me and Tyler were trying to like text back and forth to see how we could like get on.
Oh my gosh. I forgot that was the reason. I remember, if you go back, it's just Steven like by himself answering questions. I wasn't sure why.
Like, okay. Alex and Tyler should be here shortly. They never came.
An hour later. Oops. Oh, well. Well, anyway, Andrew and everyone, thank you for being members. This guy loves to make me say his name here. Daddy, don't pull out. Ask the question. I was scared the flex game was this week. Would be Chargers luck having to do Monday night to Thursday. I don't believe that's ever happened, and I can't imagine they would ever do that. But yes, that would have been awful if it were this Thursday. Make it a Thanksgiving game. The good news is that I would have the week off. The bad news is the Chargers would be like crawling to this game, but oh well.
Honestly, I wouldn't put it past Roger Goodell to do a Monday game at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. Followed by like a 4-game suspension for Derwin for player safety. So just something completely hypocritical, the whole thing. From a Thier, my Chargers, they're not getting enough love and respect. This Ravens team is average. If you look, they should have lost both games to the Bengals. They should be 5-6, not 7-4. The thing is, and on it, you can say the same thing with the Chiefs. They won those games. Like they found a way to win or not lose. And to be completely honest, you could say the Chargers should have lost last week. It's a different game, and the Bengals are playing it differently. If McPherson makes 1 of 2 field goals, things could be completely different in that game. Maybe they're not allowing Dobbins to score. I don't know. So there are many instances where the Chargers maybe should have also lost. It's just the NFL. It's the way it is. I don't know if you can call the Ravens an average team when they have like 1, if not 2, of the offensive player of the year and the MVP front runners with Lamar and Derrick Henry and that offense and one of the best offenses in the NFL this year. I don't think you can be an average team with that. And the thing with their defense is they do have talent on that defense. That's what really scares me, is that they do have talent. So at any point, random game, scheme or otherwise, they could just have a good game.
Yeah, I think for them, it's been more about the injuries on the defensive side of the ball and kind of going through that versus the offensive side of the ball has, kind of been their bread and butter this season, which I feel, not that they've been bad on offense before, but I do feel like it was a bit more even matched in both those years. And what was the stat about like Mike McDonald that they went from like first in EPA to, whatever the drop off was with him after he left. So I think they're still adapting in that sense too, plus the injuries.
Yeah.
But they're still a contender. I mean, as long as you have Lamar and they add Derrick Henry into that, like they're going to be one of the final 4 AFC teams. I feel confident enough saying that.
Yeah, hyper dangerous team for sure. Next one from a Thier follow-up here. My prediction is the Chargers make a statement and they beat their ass. Herbert will cook this defense. Chargers will win 34-17. This defense performance will shine. So obviously they broke the streak of allowing fewer than 20 points last week. Do they not continue, but do they return to that streak this week?
No, I think
Same.
I think the Ravens get 24, like 27.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, unless Lamar has an awful game, which is possible. But I mean, we looked at his numbers. It's by far the best turnover worthy play rate of his career. His pressure to sack rate is in like half based on his career average. I mean, he's not making he's not regularly making these mistakes. It's like what we've seen with Herbert in terms of pocket management and stuff like that, avoiding the turnover. So it's a tricky one. It's not as much like the Josh Allen where you're kind of guaranteed one, and what you can do with it matters there.
No, I agree.
Next one, big one from Joe Cruz here. And then we didn't talk about this. I don't even think Steven and I talked about this in our recap. He says, I'm calling it now. Josh Palmer breakout game, 6 catches, 120 yards and a touchdown. Chargers win 28-17. Bolt up. This question is about Josh Palmer, so I guess we can talk about whether you think this is possible or not. But 2, what did you make of, and do you think there will be a switch of how frequently they were going after Quentin Johnston down the sideline against the Bengals?
Yeah.
And do you think that potentially could shift to a different player this week? Or was that just kind of a weird fluke where they just said, hey, big Quentin Johnston versus very fast but shorter DJ Turner? Let's give it a rock.
Kind of. I think they also, I mean, in the last couple of weeks, they got some broken coverages to sort of go their way, like the Palmer touchdown, a couple, the QJ touchdowns. So I think they kind of just hoped like, okay, well, McConkey gravity will like basically give you that opportunity where like one of those guys is going to be open somewhere.
Yeah.
And that had been working for them, but the Bengals in the second half really put it together with their coverage, and they basically said, hey, we're, when it comes to Palmer or QJ, you're going to have to sort of throw them open to some extent, which Herbert did a couple times still. So I don't know if they're going to like do that as his like primary thing again, but those aren't the situations where QJ wins. So I don't know. They also don't have any other like real choices that I feel like they're willing to play, which is kind of the problem, because I don't think you want to put Rager out there as one of your top 2 X receivers. And because Rager plays special teams and he blocks, they don't want to put Chark out there. So I don't know. Like, I think there are options until the end of the season or some injury to those 2 on the outside XZ receivers. Like, it's going to be Palmer and QJ.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Would love to see that. As Randall points out, as Kevin points out, like, yeah, if there's that one-on-one look on the outside, and I think they should, for the most part, go to Quinton if he has that matchup. Maybe it's less about like, specifically feeding Quinton as much as, hey, they're choosing to do this. We've got the 6'2" receiver who can run fast. It's more the contested catch situation issue there. And DJ Turner and those guys, for what it's worth, like you said, they did play great coverage. Like, there was great pass breakups on film for the Bengals. Just would have loved to see Quinton come up with one of those on the day. Charted as 0 for 3 on the day. Would have been nice to have one, or draw defensive pass interference or whatever.
Yeah, is it just 0 for 3 on those go balls, or 0 for 3 like total?
I guess I'm assuming it's those, but he's 0 for 3 on the contested catch situations from that game.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to assume that at least 2 of those might have been.
Because I know I checked the PFF charting, and PFF charted like that drop that he had in the fourth quarter. They charted that as a Herbert miss, I think.
Interesting.
I think they did. I don't think they gave the drop to QJ, because I think he's still at 0 drops for the year, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, so in terms of drops, he's on. Yeah, it's a 0 for the year.
Yeah.
I don't know about that one. Just being honest, I mean, I get it. Like, I get how you can say Herbert shares blame. I don't know if I could have given him 0 drops at least on that one.
Right.
Okay. Well, there's that. So anyway, we'll see what happens this game. I like the idea. Curious if DJ Chark cuts out there. I think DJ Chark has taken the biggest like swing in different directions this year. I mean, wasn't sure how we felt about him when they signed him. Didn't think he'd be contributing as much. Goes into camp, tears it up, is arguably like the offensive player of the camp for them.
Yeah.
Obviously not named Herbert, and then is behind Jalen Reagor. Like, the whole 180 this is taken in separate directions is crazy.
Yeah, I also haven't heard a lot about Jalen Reagor the past couple weeks. After the game, it seems like people are awfully quiet about him right now.
Yeah, that was an experience. So I don't know. The experience of Jalen Reagor has been interesting, because that was a heck of a play to get open against the Cardinals, followed by completely the thing that might have cost them the game. But then you see him against the Saints. Great catch against the Titans. The best negative 3-yard play I've ever seen in my life. And then I think nothing last week. So we'll see. I mean, if Darius Davis is healthy, he's less the vertical threat that Reagor is, or at least in their minds.
Yeah.
But he's definitely more dynamic with the screens, the handoffs, that sort of thing. But yeah, he hasn't done much lately. And if it's just that, I'd rather start to see DJ Chark out there. And if Dean Leonard comes back, as people are, as Nimbasabe is asking, like, if Dean Leonard comes back, maybe he can take some of that role. I guess he's more of a gunner. Anyway, I don't know what to say about Jalen Reagor at this point. Gotta earn it. I'd love to see Chark out there.
I'm kind of fine with him doing like the blocking thing, because I mean, really, outside of the top 3 receivers, none of them are going to be highly targeted. So, from that perspective, other than, okay, you're going to do a couple gadget plays with Darius Davis every game, and then Reagor might get 1, maybe 2 targets total in like 20 snaps. So right now, I don't mind it. If Palmer or QJ gets injured, that's when I think you have to play Chark over Reagor.
That's fair.
About it's like prototypical X receiver. But right now, I guess it doesn't matter necessarily.
Yeah. That's fair. As Eric points out, Rager's probably better at special teams than Chark is. That's, I think,
Yeah,
true.
I
Not that
think
I've
that's
studied them, but yeah, he's going to play special teams. Chark, excuse me, especially with the questionable injury history. I don't think they'll ask him to do that a ton.
no.
I say that as Thule is playing like 25 special team snaps a game,
Yeah, that's pretty
despite being a
crazy.
starter. From J29, Disley caught some traffic last week. Huge sign. Yeah, I don't remember him having a contested catch, if that's what you're asking, but he's definitely very involved. Will Disley has now passed his career high in receiving yards, I believe receptions as well. So he's going to have like a 700-800 yard kind of season. The Hayden Hurst experiment, unfortunately, and really a lot with this offense has kind of sputtered relative to maybe some expectations.
Yeah.
Hayden Hurst, I didn't expect the 800 yard season by any means, but are we even at 75? I don't even know where we're at with his numbers, but the fact that I couldn't even tell you if he's over 100 or not kind of speaks to the season.
Yeah, the injuries definitely didn't help him. Yeah, and I don't know. I never, like, he never kind of had that moment where I was like, oh, he should be the top pass catching tight end. Obviously, part of this is we sort of implored them and begged them to take a tight end last year, and they didn't. So, yeah, I just think Disley's been better as a receiver. He's much more playable as a blocker. So I think that's where we're at. And yeah, they worked out, who was it? Albert O, and they worked out Lawrence Cager, which to me was, with no injuries on the roster, struck me as two pass catching tight ends that, to push Hurst a little bit. At least that's what it strikes me as.
Yeah, so Hayden Hurst, 7 catches, 65 yards on the year, probably on pace for his worst year ever, which I definitely wouldn't have guessed. I don't know if he would have ever crossed the 571 he had with the Falcons, or even 414 with the Bengals. I didn't expect to pray that he crosses 100 yards, but we'll see. We got to catch the passes. They've been there for sure.
Right.
Next one from Athir again. Tyler, Bolts in the playoffs. Can we bring back the rally monkey back to make a run to the Super Bowl? So do we need permission from the Angels?
What's
the rally monkeys? Oh, like literal, well, it's a video of a monkey, but like I don't recall when it occurs, but there's a rally monkey at Angels games. Someone can explain it. Clearly, I haven't been to many Angels games.
Is it an actual monkey, or is it like?
I think it was maybe, but now we have it's like those little stuffed animal monkeys you can with a little Velcro around the hands.
Oh, okay.
But then there's a video of a monkey, I don't know. I don't know if it's the 7th inning stretch sort of thing. Somebody freaking let me know. Anyway, what they should keep is the LT electric slide.
Yeah, I saw that on the video board. That was cool.
That was it's so strange because I had not watched that video.
Yeah.
In a decade, maybe. And yet I knew every word to that because it just was so ingrained in my brain over the years. I think they should do that. And I think the Chargers are doing a very good job of bringing some of that stuff back into the stadium. But the Chargers fans need more cues to know when to yell things or do certain things. Like when, there are several players when they catch a football, they all yell that last name. It's, whatever it is. John Kuhn, the fullback, back in the day used to have they'd yell his name when he'd have a rushing touchdown or something. We tried to do the Mike thing. Fuck all of you for that one.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up. I think that one would have been good. I think the social media team should have taken cues on that one.
Yes. They have to keep, I think we just need more things that we always say. I don't know what those things are. We know when the lights go off in the fourth quarter, they're going to turn off the lights, play Thunderstruck. Aiden is going to take his shirt off and swing it around, King Aiden. So that's kind of all we have for cues other than yelling defense or whatever. I think Chargers fans need more things to say and more things that we know to say. We used to it was very easy back in the day in San Diego. We all sang San Diego Superchargers. We all knew the lyrics to that song. No, you can't do it again, but there needs to be something. QJ, Wrong Speedy says QJ, QB, QQQQQQ, fine.
Or just one large shout of Q.
Yeah, right, exactly. Easy one. Yeah, LD Bruin points out first down we say charge. I love and hate that one. Fans love to clown
Is
that
that
one for
actually like a
sure.
thing people do?
It's the bugle, like da, 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 da,
Oh,
da,
okay.
and then we all yell charge, and it's really like half the stadium half-heartedly yelling charge. It's really cool when you're winning. It's not all the time super fun. So again, just more things like every time this player touches the football or whatever, yell something.
I think we need a third down defensive chant when the other team is on offense. Like very college football oriented. I don't know what we would say. I can't say what we say at Rutgers games.
Don't be Staley. I get behind that.
At Rutgers games, they say "fuck Penn State" on third down, regardless of the team they're
hey,
playing.
I'll join in whatever, man. Whatever we come up with. If that's what these guys want to shout,
we'll come up with something. But I think there needs to be a chant on like third down. That's like a thing. I think that would be cool.
Yeah. They have a "Let's Go Bolts" chant. I just can't, like, I don't know. Obviously, I'm getting old and crotchety. It's like, "Let's go Bolts." I just can't. That one doesn't work for me. I need something I need to like go into war with. I don't know if "Let's Go Bolts" is working for me. They are trying though. The atmosphere is great. It's awesome. But yeah, we'll see. I think that's it for super chat questions. There was one. I will find it as I'm talking about it, but this is the pass the torch game, I think, for kickers potentially in the NFL.
I know.
I never would have thought in my life I'd say that the Chargers had a better kicker than the Ravens with Justin Tucker, but here we are.
Yeah, well, it would be very Chargers for us to say that, and then he just goes like 6 for 6 or something this week and has like the retribution game. But yeah, I think it was Tucker, Jake Elliott, and like Dustin Hopkins all missing multiple field goals last week, and it's like, what's happening?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Hopkins missed. He missed. McPherson, like the entire AFC North, but Boswell missed, and of course they ended up winning that game, no problem.
It's also very weird. It's also very weird to call Justin Tucker old, and that makes me feel old.
I know, man. We're getting to the what was it? Oh, I just got a notification on Facebook. It's super random. But I got a notification that like 10 years ago I watched the last Hunger Games movie with my family, and I'm like, that was 10 years ago. Help! That was a while ago. Yeah, a lot of things. We're coming up on like the 25th anniversary of like the prequels and Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter starting. It's like, oh God, help.
Yeah. No, that's
Arjun, if you're listening, you're still like 22. Enjoy it, man.
Yeah, I know. Wait till you get to hip pain, man. It's great.
Is it weird? Okay. Is it odd when you are in the medical field and like something hurts that you can kind of like self-diagnose?
Yeah. I know. I felt this way watching Joey Bosa's press conference at his locker.
Yeah.
Like my sciatic nerve is being compressed against. I'm like, damn, my hip kind of hurts too. I'm not gonna lie. Obviously, not as bad as Joey Bosa's, but yeah, no, I don't know, like 2 years ago, ever since like I started running, like there was just like a year ago, I'd say there was like a little creep, and then like I don't know. Since then, I felt a little off. I don't know if I should get it checked out. I'm a little afraid at this point, but
yes. And you might have been apparently one of like the 5 Chargers fans that we have that knew that you could hurt both of your groins.
Oh yeah. I just because I heard that during the press conference, and then like, oh no, this was during the locker room thing, and then Popper tweeted it out, and I was like, did he tweet this out right? And then I watched the video afterwards. I was like, no, he got that totally right. Both groins.
Yeah, I had never. I mean, obviously that makes sense, but we all just associate like your groin, like you pulled your groin, your groin injury, which the Chargers have had.
This season is definitely record-setting for how many groin injuries are listed on the injury report.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. Do you feel okay with something like Fehoko, where he grabbed his knee and then had a groin injury the next day?
Yeah.
Like, is that just a designation they're giving because it's like a larger muscle group? Like, what is the?
I don't believe a single thing that they put on the injury report. Like, I'm not trying to be conspiratorial, but like, I don't know. I believe in the like macro that they're correct on certain things, but I don't believe they're giving out all of the details that they could. And like, and a larger point, they shouldn't. But like,
Sure.
I think there's certain injuries that they've just called, that's a groin, that's a hammy, or like, man, it could be worse. Like, I don't know. Because like Joey Bosa, they just had hip on the injury report for 5 weeks, and then he was like, "Okay, let me actually tell you what's going on." And then it was like, "Oh, okay, now I get it." But like,
yeah,
so that's another thing. All of the lower body like injuries are pretty vague in what they could be. So
yeah, definitely. Oh, we got one towards you now. Athir says, "Alex, this is for you. I'm tired of Lane Johnson, how good he is. It's time to pass the torch to my rookie right tackle, Joe Walt. Be honest. Thanks. For what it's worth, Lane Johnson in 267 pass blocking snaps this year has allowed 4 pressures, which is unfreaking real."
yeah, no, he and Mailata, who just got back, they're both insane. And honestly, they haven't really missed too much of a beat without Kelsey either, which I thought they really would. But no, it's been good.
I think like you're maybe down on like the tush push stats, and that's about it.
Yeah, you know that can vary from year to year variance, but overall, they're 6-0 since Sirianni shaved his head, and I called for his firing. So good.
Oh man, you don't know this, everybody, but Alex in the chat was rooting for pure chaos, maybe by the second week of the season. And then I think when but there was he's so like specifically in that moment when he was chirping back at the fans or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Kind of had this awful, arrogant vibe, but then they're now really good and they're winning again. So it kind of fits too.
He won me back over when he just like stood there with his shaved head and glasses at practice, and then they played Many Men by 50 Cent in the background. that's when he won me back. I'm like, okay, I have to be back in it for the bit. And so far he's circling the wagon, but
there you go. And hey, with an offensive line and a generally healthy team, Kellen Moore has proved he's not a terrible offensive coordinator.
I have a dark horse thought on that.
Okay.
Kellen Moore, Cowboys head coach.
Oh, snap.
I thought about this because Jerry's not going to hire a real like coach, right? Like he's going to want his Patsy. And like I was thinking who fits the Jason Garrett style vein, cuz I don't believe he's actually going to go and hire like a Bill Belichick or any of those people. Or Ben Johnson, he's not going to want to work there. So like Kellen Moore is the prototypical, like he'll be there for like 10 years. He'll be best friends with like 90-year-old Jerry Jones. No complications. That strikes to me as the Cowboys hire. Ooh, someone mentioned Jason Witten. Oh my God. Can you imagine if he brought
I will do a podcast with you just about the Witten becoming the Cowboys head coach.
the fake hairpiece on the sideline.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that way. All right. We won't go after the hair on this show. All right. Dang. Yeah. If that happens, although I will say, I think we all not all, many of us, definitely myself, had the worst luck when it came to the reactions for the 2021 hires when I was making fun of Nick Sirianni's press conference and Dan Campbell's press conference. Although Campbell's was more just like an entertaining thing. But they're both pretty good. I've had more success than the Chargers have had for sure.
Yeah, no, I remember that was the bite their kneecaps press conference.
Yeah.
And everyone there, I think we did a whole podcast that was like, look at how like well spoken Brandon Staley is. And it's like, well, you win some, you lose some.
We all fell for it. I think most of us, even if you didn't want him specifically, and I think the three of us might have been pro Dable at that point, but couldn't help it. I mean, he was acknowledging, I forget her name, but she had just gone through cancer and related to his family having cancer. Like, how were you not going to leave that press conference going, wow, that's the guy? And then they start 4-1 and they beat the Chiefs on the road. And the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah, I would say he was good the first 1.3 years.
Hell yeah, baby.
until things fell apart.
Until they were awful. Yeah.
Me and you were both out after the Cardinals game in 2022. That one I remember.
I was Chiefs for what it's worth.
Oh, you were Chiefs. I remember I was
You
Cardinals.
were out of the Cardinals win. I thought that was the funniest thing. You were like, nope, that's the one. Like, they barely took the Cardinals. I'm out. It took the 2-point conversion on the road. And you're like, nope.
And then no, the one I was finally out on was the Mike Williams shit. That was the one
when he got hurt in Denver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he still had starters out there after like Mike Williams got hurt. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah, that was a doozy. And then well, that's all. It's all history and all that sort of stuff.
Trip down memory lane.
That was really fun. So yeah, well, okay. If not Kellen Moore, I still think Cliff maybe ends up there because he's coached like 3 Texas teams. So it's definitely possible that he's over there. I don't know. Maybe they're worried about him going to Thailand again or whatever that was. Cliff was almost going to be the Raiders coordinator.
Yeah. And then I think did he pull out at the last moment on that one? And then
yeah,
I don't remember. Yeah, because I think he pulled a McDaniels there.
I think so. I know he was committed, or he was reportedly committed. I obviously didn't have a press conference.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin. Let's just go one more trip down memory lane. Yeah, the Titans lost last year is when we all knew. It's amazing that our hype for last year lasted until the second week, and then we all were praying for the worst.
Yeah, the Miami opener was like a particular stinker because like none of us fully recovered from the Jacksonville game, but we all had to like get ourselves back into like, yeah, this could be the year, and it was like arguably the worst Chargers defensive game in like 10 years.
Oh yeah, not dreadful. And then they followed it up with more of the worst games I've ever seen in my life. So yeah, that was a bummer. I mean, at least we had this great rushing attack after the first week, and then they lost to Ryan Tannehill and like Treylon Burks and basically everyone that was out there this past couple of weeks ago against the Titans. Let's go one more here from Trezo Campapas. I think it may be a foregone conclusion that Minter is one and done. Where do you see him landing, and who is your ideal replacement? If it's internal, I think I'm with Steven at this point that Klingscale makes the most sense.
Yeah.
If we're another year, you could talk me into Bowman, but that is a pretty significant jump, and Bowman will stick around unless Klingscale, of course, obviously goes to be the defensive coordinator with Minter wherever he goes, which is possible. So, do you feel it's one and done with Minter? I think there will at least be an opening for Minter. I think there will be several openings for Minter. It's more of whether he wants to leave.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's very much in a Ben Johnson style position where because of what he's done, like I think he's going to have all of kind of the leverage, so to speak. So it depends on what he wants. I mean, it depends on which jobs become available. Obviously, if it's a franchise that feels like, hey, they want more of like a Belichick style guy or like an experienced style guy, then Minter probably doesn't land that type of job, kind of like a potential like Eagles opening or a Jacksonville opening. But if it's one of the like up and coming teams, then I think he could certainly get it. But
yeah,
I would lean towards him being one and done only because I feel like the direction that things are going, like, and we saw this last year with the amount of defensive coordinators that got hired, is find essentially the one guy who can punch back on the offenses, and Minter's had the answer so far. So we'll see how he ends the season, but I also think Harbaugh's institutional backing is like pretty big there too. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. I don't think he's immediately gonna like jump, but I don't think it's gonna be. I think he'll have his mind to kind of make up and have his job choices to some extent, where he can decide if he wants to come back or not.
Yeah, as reality check points out, it depends how the defense looks by the end of the season. If we start giving up 25 points a game to good offenses, the conversation gets reevaluated. I think the Chargers are just going to naturally shift back to maybe what our expectations were for this defense, which was literally anything better than last place is great. If you fall into the average middle, like top 15, top 16, that'd be freaking awesome for this group. We had mentioned like there needs to be more talent on this defense to really compete with these guys. We'll see. But as Timid points out, like they just almost lost to the Bengals. The difference is obviously that a couple of corners got hurt and they did have some injuries, but that is the nature of the NFL. They have to deal with it, and they're going to be facing really great talent. As you know, Monday of course, the Bucks will see who's out there. The Falcons have talent. The Chiefs not as talented, but they have Andy Reid, Mahomes. Like they'll still make it work. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think that like these offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators don't really get like interviewed that way though. It's more like, hey, have you shown the proof of concept? And then, okay, what would you do for our team? I don't think it's like, I don't think other franchises are like, ooh, I have to see if Jesse Minter's 1 in scoring defense or if he's 6 this week. Like I don't think that's quite how it works. If they have a promising young OC DC that they like, then they will kind of go after them. Even like I remember there was obviously like when Staley was interviewing for jobs, it was like, oh, inexperienced, but like, I don't know, if you can sell yourself and the interview is like a big part of that, then sell yourself. And so I think Minter, kind of almost regardless of how the season ends, barring it being like an absolute disaster, will still get those interviews.
Oh yeah, he'll definitely get interviews. I mean, I think what he's done with less. Going into the league viewed the Chargers, the guys that they have, as not that great. I mean, it's obvious in how much they were paid. That's how the league viewed them. If they thought Fulton were a great corner, he wouldn't be making $2 million this year, or whatever it was. Please no Jets. Although if Chad Alexander wants to go be the GM over there, that's I guess possible if Minter and Chad Alexander go, but let's not. Joe Lombardi got a head coach interview after 2021. Hey, look, that was a stabilizing, half decent offense that technically was like top 6 in EPA, our success rate, whatever it was by the end of the year.
Oh, that's exactly what I'm saying though. Like you can have a mid offense or a mid defense and still absolutely get interviews and head coaching interest. Kellen Moore got it this year. Didn't he get interviewed by the Panthers or something? Or am I thinking of the right thing? I think he did get interviewed by the Panthers, or maybe I'm thinking of the year before. I don't remember. There was one year I remember he did. I can't remember.
I don't know. I mean, there's even the Chargers. Look, the Chargers interviewed Jason Garrett back in the day. Like, they will. Guys get interviews for sure.
And a lot of the interviews can be like, okay, even if we are a team that has no interest in hiring Minter, we want to, know what his secret sauce is, even if we're intent on hiring a Belichick or a Ben Johnson or whatever, So I think even in that way, they'll, there will still be interest in that capacity too.
Yeah. Soda Pop, final super chat question here. The Bulls should give Minter more to stay 1 more year. I am curious where he's paid. I don't think we'll ever know this, but relative to other defensive coordinators, unless you're like a Steve Spagnuolo, who obviously is probably the highest paid, if not one of the 2 or 3 highest paid guys. But the whole like hiring Harbaugh thing was always, you got to pay a lot of money for the assistants, like a Ben Herbert, like a Minter. So my assumption is he's paid pretty well. The question is, how much is that relative to a head coaching job?
Yeah, I can't imagine he's on a head coach's salary, which is like $4 or $5 million, something like that. Yeah, that's like $4 or $5 million a year. I can't imagine he's that high. Then again, you never know. I don't think it's like with Ben Johnson, I don't think it's a money thing because, like, I think, they could give him more money and he could stay. But, like, I think it'll just be about when is the right opportunity if it does come calling, whether that's this year, the year after that. I think it's much more about that than any of the finances about it, because if you get an opportunity to take a promotion, you would take it, right? Like if it is the right job, but not like, I don't know, the Raiders or something. So...
Dude, right? Someone's asking if Ficken got a raise last year. Did Ficken get a raise?
Ryan I don't remember. Not that I remember off the top of my head. It was just that they kept him instead of Jay Harbaugh. But I think I don't know if they ever signed him to a new contract. I think he was just under contract. Maybe they gave him some type of extension because Harbaugh came in or whatever. But technically, he was still under contract from previous regime.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, if Jesse Minter leaves, I'm looking at Dave Canales' contract. I don't have the number, but the fact that he got a 6-year deal. Listen, man, you find a team that will pay you for the next 6 years, $4, $5, $6 million a year.
Absolutely.
Hey, man, I get it, man. I mean, I wouldn't want to go coach the Panthers, but if you told me
No,
for
but
$30
that's the
million
thing.
I
Like,
can coach the Panthers, sure.
yeah, I think that's the thing. If you're one of these teams that is like one of the bottom feeders right now, then if you want to get the coach you want, then you have to offer them more job security. You have to offer them more money. And so the Panthers did that with Canales. See how that goes. But I wouldn't put it past one of these teams giving that kind of contract to Minter. I think even the when I think back to Staley in 2021, the Chargers had to essentially kind of lock him down right there. Otherwise, he was going to get on a plane to Philly. That I remember was like the thing at the time, and then they finished it that night, and he never went. But that was I remember that was like a thing at the time. So it's competitive when you're trying to get these coaches.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Lot to discuss coming up if they implode on defense against the Ravens. Honestly, I wouldn't be super annoyed by that because it's the Ravens. Chargers are shorthanded. It's not. We'll see.
I would only get concerned if it's like a month straight that like the defense is just unplayable.
Correct.
That would be like the worst. But
if they only perform well against the Titans, Saints, and who was before that? No, Titans, Saints. Who's before that? Who the heck did they play before that?
Browns.
There you go. Those guys. And then they are awful against the Ravens, the Bengals, let's say the Chiefs coming up, etc. Yeah.
I didn't even think they were like awful against the Bengals. I just think the second half got away from them. And I kind of agreed with what Steven said earlier in the week, where like if Cam Hart doesn't come out of that game, with the concussion, I don't know if the second half gets as bad as it did. Plus Mac not playing. So I thought for all things considered, like we could, you could pick apart the performance for sure. And it wasn't under 20 points, but like, for the standard and of the team they were playing, who can score 40 points in an instant, like I didn't think it was. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah,
outside of a few mistakes.
Yeah, definitely. Steven's now checking in, so that's great. Perfect time to end a show. I guess we're now over an hour, so we were pretty close to wrapping up. So Steven, sorry, you can always go back, like and leave us a super chat and subscribe, Steven. Make sure you're doing all that. Good luck to Utah and all that, or bad luck to Utah. I don't know what you're rooting for at this point. But Alex, any final thoughts? Oh, go for it.
Is there a path to Utah becoming bowl eligible? They're 4-6, so they need to win 2 more games. They have 8-2 Iowa State, and then they play UCF. So, I don't know how UCF's doing this year, but yeah, I don't know if, unfortunately for Steven, if this is gonna be the year for him. But Rutgers does have the fewest losses out of any of our teams. I would like to submit that to the record so far, except for Ohio State. Except that's like a thing. Oh, I didn't check the Ohio State score until just now, but that's unfortunate.
What is the score?
Oh, Ohio State's up 21-7 on Indiana.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, that's good for you. Not good for people who hate Ohio State like me.
Well, I don't know. I'm mostly indifferent to the whole thing. Well, on that fun note of Rutgers, Utah, and USC doing something in the college football world this year, that's going to do it from us today, guys. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, all that sort of stuff. We'll see you in the comments. And then Steven and Alex Katzen will see you guys on Monday night after the game. I will be at that game. If they win that game again, I owe you guys a handstand and singing the Pokemon theme song, apparently at the exact same time. So if that happens, I'll do that. Like no one ever was. Dun, dun, dun. Bye, everyone.